You tell such great stories. Now, you've also got a fascinating one about how someone on the other side of death welcomed you to an event in the future. Would you tell us that story?
Oh, I like this. This is such a small story, but it's also an educational story. There's nothing huge going on. And it actually does involve my new book, Growing Big Dreams. When I was working on the new book, Growing Big Dreams, which is out just now, I decided I would collect dreams that people were having around the New Year 2020. I collected 400 dream reports, and I'm looking at them. Are there clues to what lies ahead in hindsight? Are there clues to pandemic, life under pandemic, etc.? One of the dreams that I myself recorded and put in the book was very simple. I dreamed that a matriarch, a woman of power, on a golf cart, sort of a rather old-fashioned golf cart, not a Donald Trump kind of golf cart, an old-fashioned golf cart. She comes riding up at some Midwest rustic center to welcome me. She's so happy that I've agreed to come and speak to all these women at this Midwest retreat center. And I thought, okay, I had energy. I drew a picture. I draw from my dreams sometimes. I drew a picture of the matriarch on the golf cart, driving up merrily towards me to welcome me to the Midwest rustic retreat center. Then when the pandemic descended, and I was prepared after the dream to be ready for an invitation from someone like this, from a center like this, I thought I would be honored. If a women's group, very spiritualist orientation, approached me, I'll be nice to them. Then I get an invitation from a Midwest rustic center to go on a Zoom conference, with them in the fall. And I say, this is very interesting. It's Camp Chesterfield. It's in Indiana. It's in the Midwest at the Rustic Center. And I asked the woman who contacted me about my dream, and I sent her a picture. She says, it's about us. I'm going to find a painting of Mabel, who was the matriarch of this center for 50 years, and sent it to you. She sends me the photo. There's Mabel leaning on a golf cart, a period golf cart. She drove everywhere on a golf cart, all over the site. She was famous for it, checking on everything. So I thought, isn't this great? Wouldn't it be just perfect? It's a spiritualist group. For spiritualists in particular, wouldn't you think it's perfect for a deceased spiritualist to welcome you to the spiritualist center in a future, months ahead of the time when you have the dream? So that's my fun little story, which says a couple of things about our relationship with the departed and our relationship with the future. And I will often say this to people. When you want to give yourself signals, some markers, some personal markers about whether you're dreaming of the deceased for real or whether you're dreaming of the future for real, always notice that there could be a connection between a dream of someone who is deceased from this life and information about the future. Why? Because the deceased might actually want to come and welcome you to a certain place or family gathering, or simply because the deceased, when they've got their minds clear, can see across time more accurately than we sometimes can. And we're so caught up in our hopes and fears and our inhibitions, etc. But someone who's got clarity on the other side of death, it's probably not as difficult as it is for us to see into the future or to see across time in other ways. So that was the story that I thought you might enjoy.
So it's a fantastic story. I love that one so much. Now I'm wondering, I know that you teach many, many courses on this exact topic, but for those who are watching this who might not be familiar with your work yet, what would you suggest for the first steps to begin working with their dreams to communicate?
Well, the first thing you do is you start a journal if you're not keeping one already. You write something down every day. It doesn't have to be a dream. If you've been going through a dream drought, as so many people in our society have been suffering, well, it's particularly important to write something in your journal every day. Passing thoughts, something you notice in the street, quote, something you saw in the movie, something a friend said to you. Write something in your journal. Then your dream producers, whoever they may be, and there are a number of possibilities, might notice that, oh, this person's actually paying some attention. Let's make sure we give them something from the night that is unexpected, that they can add to their journal and make part of their story. So keeping a journal is absolutely fundamental practice. Then if you haven't been in relation with your dreams, don't judge what you manage to remember. Fragments can be great. The tiniest little breadcrumb from a dream can lead to interesting things, particularly if you haven't been dreaming a lot. And I notice with my own dreams, sometimes it's the tiny little vignette, the tiny little scene, the little thing, the bit of a soundtrack, the sense of a color that is giving me a start to the day. It starts with that. Then you learn to whatever extent you're able to get out and about these days. Then you notice the world around you is giving you messages too. The world around you will speak like dreams through synchronicity, through signs and symbols that pop up. You're thinking about a swan, and my goodness, there's a painting of a swan in the window of that store, and there's a woman wearing a swan brooch or a swan in the fabric of her dress, and there's a swan on the water. If you're really lucky, you'll see that as well. So you begin to notice that this dreaming isn't just about what happens during sleep. You begin to pay attention, expanding your perception to signs and symbols in the world around you. You're thinking about something, something pops up. You've got a question on your mind, the world gives you an answer. And it's funny that, but as you pay more attention to coincidence and the play of symbols in the world around you, your relationship with the nightlife of dreams will grow as well. Then you also notice that it's, again, not just about what happens during sleep. You can spend time in that drifty stage between sleep and awake. If you've been involved in shamanic practice, you will know by now how to use drumming or other sonic effects to shepherd your brain waves into patterns that enable you to journey and see things wide awake or hyper awake. These are all ways, to enter the dream adventure, and it's waiting for you. Your dreams are waiting for you. One thing I'll say to people who've had a dream drought for decades, and many people have, is see if you can remember the last dream that ever stayed with you. That might take you back 30 years. It might take you back longer. See if you can find that dream. See if you can pay attention to that dream. See if you can call up the memory of that dream. And the amazing thing is that when you do that, you find yourself in touch with that younger self who was a beautiful, bright dreamer. Maybe things happened in her life that scared her. Maybe things happened in the dream world that scared her. Maybe things were going on in life scared her. But once you start establishing a connection across time with your younger self, your magical child, you're in touch with the master imagineer, the master of dreams and imagination for your life. And as you bring her closer to you and make more of a friendship with her, you're going to find that you have all the dreams you want because she really knows how to dream. So these are some of the ways of starting the dream adventure. And of course, you can come to me. And if you come to me in my groups, you'll find you're an intentional family of passionate, creative dreamers all over the world map. And hey, this stuff is contagious. You come into contact with one of my groups, it's going to catch you. The bug, the benign bug, the happy bug is going to be with you.
Absolutely. I know that from experience. Now we're almost out of time, but I do want to ask you about a Lakota quote that I've heard you talking about, that the path of the soul after death is the same as in dreams. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I think this is some of the most essential and practical and plain guidance on the relationship between dreaming and being ready for death, being ready for rebirth, being ready for the larger adventure. The path of the soul after death is the same as the path of the soul in dreams. We might add, except you don't come to the body, back to the body after death. What does that mean? Well, it means that in dreams, you travel. Dreaming is traveling. All indigenous peoples understand this. Dreaming is traveling. You make visits, you receive visitations. Among the places you travel are places that are in the afterlife, in the sense that they're places where the deceased are at home, spiritual guides are available, the living and the dead might interact, learn from each other. There might be paths of true initiation. There might be paths of higher education in those realms. As a matter of fact, as you go further into this, you're probably going to find that many of the places that you can't quite identify in your dreams are real places in non-ordinary reality, in the kind of territory that is shared by the departed and by the far-traveling living, and maybe by beings of a higher order of evolution within what is sometimes called the imaginal realm, the realm of true imagination. There are cities here, there are palaces here, there are schools here, there are places of healing here. I travel in these places very frequently, and I guide people. I lead journeys to these places. So you can go to a magic library where all information is available to you, and you'll find in that magic library you have access to people who have died from this world, but amazing teachers, like William Butler Yeats, the one who guided me when I was writing about transitions in the afterlife. So yeah, so you might discover that mysterious house, that mysterious building in your dream, don't get too scared yet, is also a rest house, a way station, a halfway house, a school, a temple, a palace in the afterlife, or a place where you can have interaction, a place where you can live perhaps when you've left this world behind. And you know what, if you're going on a trip, think of it this way, and going into death is a big trip, right? Even if it turns out to be a joyful and easy trip once you get through some transitional bumps and grinds. If you're going on a trip to a far country, it might be good to get some first-hand information on it from people who know it, right? Who's been there recently? Well, the best person to talk to about what it's like is you yourself, your dream self, when you've got into the habit of traveling and recognizing all that becomes available to you in your dreams. This adventure is calling to you right now.
Let's go ahead and talk just a little bit about your brand new book before we go, Growing Big Dreams. Tell us a little bit about what that's going to include.
Well, it's a dream-inspired book, of course. Actually, before I really got into the writing at the end of last year, I wrote it before the pandemic was announced, before the pandemic was obviously upon us. I dreamed that I'd taken the story of Viktor Frankl. You might remember Viktor Frankl was a well-known Jewish psychiatrist who was sent to Auschwitz and basically survived Auschwitz, as he told his story, by using his dreams and imagination to put his mind into a future situation where Hitler was a bad memory and he was fine and the world was sane again. Oh, that's interesting. I'm being encouraged to make this the opening scene in the introduction to my new book. I thought maybe it's a bit dark for a book about manifesting your heart's desire. I thought, no, and I've written about it before, no. So it starts with me giving a fresh version of Frankl's famous and very important story of how your dreams and imagination get you through the nightmare of history, through Auschwitz. And I'm basically saying in the introduction, if he could do this, why don't we look at the possibility we can use our dreams and imagination to get through the tough times, find what we really want and manifest it. So that's the theme of the book. And it turns out I didn't really need to revise anything. When the pandemic was upon us, it was as if I'd written the book with that as the background. It just right there, it was pitch perfect. Then I give 12 these are non-linear subjects, but sometimes if you give people a grocery list, they get really excited. So it's all built around 12 secrets, which are only secrets, as long as you're not awakened to them. The first of the secrets is that dreams show you the secret wishes of your soul. If you're going to manifest your heart's desires, you need to know what they are, you see. You need to know what you really, really in the depths of you yearn for and long for. So it takes that way of looking at dreams, that they show us what we really want on the level of soul and spirit in life. And that's where we begin. Dreams are the secret wishes of the soul. And it takes us to the idea that we have our master imagineer available to us in our magical child if we're going to pull back more of child energy and child exuberance and recover from the soul loss we might have suffered. So it's about calling back your magical child. We won't go through all of them, but it's also about, there's a gift in every wound. There's an opportunity in every setback, even the pandemic. What blessings can you find? It's about making the creative move of looking at whatever bad stuff or dark stuff or confusing stuff happens to you as a possible opportunity to change and grow and do better. I mean, that's a very important principle right now. It's about getting in touch with the bigger story of your life, stepping out of the old, small, limited family histories and dysfunctional tales, etc. It's about claiming the power of the mythic story. It's about recognizing you are magnetic. The law of attraction really works, but you need to be smart about it. Notice, how your thoughts and attitudes shape the world around you. And finally, just to jump to the very last principle, it's about the idea that the stronger the imagination, the less imaginary the results. The stronger the imagination, the less imaginary the results. So it's about practicing to use your imagination to bring to you what you most deeply desire in the knowledge of what that is, in the truth of your body's response to your desires, in the truth of attracting greater guardian spirits to watch over you and support you. So that's part of what it's about.
I love that. That sounds wonderful. I want to thank you so much for being with us today, Robert. But before I cut you loose, have we left anything out? Is there anything that's popping to mind that we haven't talked about, or do you feel complete?
Well, coming back to the basic theme of this summit, I'm going to say something which I once shocked a more shockable host with. It was some program on shamanism some time ago, not the Shift Network. She says, "What's the most important thing you can tell us about life?" I said, "You are in the afterlife right now." And she paused and turned white and didn't even say, "Will you explain?" I said, "Well, I will explain. You were living a life before you came here. You died to another world before you came here. And when you die to this world, you'll be born in another world. So in a sense, in this in-between state, you're in the afterlife right now." When you know that, you're not just hearing it, not just taking it on trust, but when you know that as a matter of experience, because, for example, you become a dreamer and awaken to all that dreaming gives you, you can really have a sort of sense of divine comedy about it all, however terrible it seems from day to day. You really can. So that, I would say, in honor of the themes of the summit, is probably my last and most important thought for now. You're in the afterlife right now. Enjoy it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Robert, for being with us today. I so appreciate your time.
You're delightful, Lisa. Let me say to you and to everybody who's watching, may your best dreams come true, and may you remember them.
Thanks for listening. Check out Castle Gate, a novel based on my own ancestral healing journey, at lisabannis.com. In 1921, 4 men set off from Scotland to the United States. Will Garrock, his brother Pete, his son Willie, and his nephew Thomas, all coal miners. They left behind the miners' rows and the nationwide mining strike with its soup kitchens. Their destination was Castlegate, Utah, where they had kin to welcome them before sending for their wives and children. They prospered in America, working in one of the finest mines in Utah. Until that tragic day, March 8th, 1924. Disaster struck. 3 explosions, trapping 171 men inside. Rescue crews worked tirelessly for days, but sadly, they could not save a soul. Women were widowed and children were orphaned, and some never recovered from their broken hearts. Castlegate is the true and tragic saga of a Scottish family whose dreams of finding their fortunes in the bountiful coal mines of Castlegate, Utah during the Prohibition era explode in one of the most devastating mine disasters in American history. Learn more at lisabannis.com.